well, there's no requirement for us, and whilst under this council that might be the case, under future councils it might not. Things may change, and then there may be a push to not advertise things as well as perhaps we would like it to be done. So how do you protect against that into the future?
I believe that's staff choice, and I've got the faith in the staff, but a DA for a carport that does not, got the maximum setbacks and not imposing on anyone, I just question why you would go and spend $200 or $300. We talked earlier about getting the best result for council, financially sustainability. And I just believe, why would you go and do that when you'll get no objections, no concerns in the community about it, and they'll still go into the newsletter or on the website, but at really no cost. But when something, as I said, would be impacting a neighbour, and as the General Manager said, a lot of those neighbours will be written to and notified and advised of it, but it's just to remove the word mandatory, and I understand why the government's done it, because we're all trying to save as much money as we can, but it will come down to staff judgment. But I think if the message comes out of this meeting that we want, to continue to let the public know what we're doing, and I think that's improved over the last couple of years, especially with our newsletter. I think it can be covered.
So should the participation plan then include something that says that council will make all reasonable efforts to inform the community of issues that are likely to be contentious?
What's in there in the public?
It's the manager's discretion.
What page is that on the plan and the attachment?
So page 58 of this report, if you go down under draft community participation plan at item B, it says provided council with discretion to reduce or waive notifying and or advertising a DA on modifications where its proposal is unlikely to have more than a minor environmental impact on adjoining landowners and submission riders where it is a modification. So whether you want to tune that up a touch or...
More or less reads what I said. But yeah, if you want to try to say that at a manager's discretion or anything that, but I just think pretty well says that we'll continue to notify if it's any interest to the public.
Page 59 talks about manager's discretion.
What we're about? Oh yeah, page 59, manager discretions to waive advertising. The discretion required. Sorry? Yep. Councillor. Sorry. Director.
Councillor, don't do that to me. Through you, Mr Mayor. Historically, when we've received development applications, particularly, let's just turn them to planning ones, not the sheds and houses. So they go through the development assessment panel. They get reviewed and vetted there. There's a discussion with all senior officers in various technical areas of expertise. And they look at whether it's going to have a minimal or significant impact to the environment, whether it, with history we know that it might be a contentious issue, etc. So judgments are made at various points about how far we may notify or advertise, and that goes to adjoining owner notification also. So if we think, say, a unit development might have potentially a greater impact on, the neighbourhood, we make the determination that we'll send 20 adjoining owners letters out, like they're not sort of adjoining owners technically, they're in the vicinity of, rather than just sending the actual adjoining owners to that property. So we'll notify, a larger section of the street, thinking that this may be slightly different to what is the normal, development or built environment. So we make that determination all the time. And this is if the manager or the development assessment panel recommends to the manager that they need to put it in the newspaper and notify it more widely, that's what we'll be doing. So it's something that we've been doing and making those judgments for many, many years. And we often go above and beyond of what we'd normally have to do for the sake of putting a few more letters out and making sure that our community is more widely notified. So we do make those judgments.
Look, I completely understand that, and I think that's fantastic, and I hope we continue to do that into the future. My concern is, if it's not contained in the policy, it could fall off in the future. That's all.
If I could just make a comment.
I suppose I'm happy to see if we can put it into the draft plan as it stands, but I think that would be a sort of a driver if we had members of the community feeling that they weren't notified or engaged. I'm sure that you would hear about it as councillors, and we could make those adjustments. I'm not hearing our community feels that we aren't engaging with them primarily. So my opinion is we're doing a pretty good job, and our community is satisfied with the level of engagement that we have. Should that change and we become aware that sentiment has shifted, certainly we can make adjustments. We can always make adjustments to these plans, but I'm also happy to see if we can fit in some additional words into the plan to give some sort of assurity to you. Without the plan, I don't actually have it in front of me. Without the plan in front of me, it's difficult to say where we'd slot those words, but we can certainly have a look at it. But yeah, that's just a comment.
The plan's been on exhibit for 45 days and here for adoption. Is there any way we could include into the recommendation that be added to or would we have to go out and re-advertise again if we change?
Look, we've consulted, as you said, for 45 days. We've got one submission. So you can make a decision tonight if that submission is something that you want to, take that feedback into account and make an adjustment. So now's the time to add that in if that's what you want to do.
You could move apart.
One thing I haven't mentioned is that we also use Facebook for DAs at times, and I think we're pretty good at judging when there's one that's a little bit contentious. We had one recently on Johnson Street in Casino, and I think we've got some very strong feedback on that DA, which is currently being assessed. So I think it's important to keep in context here that we do engage and consult well, and we get feedback on those matters that are a little bit contentious. But having said that, happy to include another point here, or strengthen a point to make sure we cover off any concerns that you have.
I'm in the hands of the council, really. This is my view, and I take on the point that it was one submission, but I actually think that particular submission has some merit to it in terms of just making sure that the intent is that we do, we will continue to engage well, and we will continue to do our best to notify the community of issues that are contentious. The concern is obviously that just putting it on and not that we do that, but there is scope for us just to put it on our website and for that not to happen in the future.
Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Most of what you said tonight I had in points as well. I do agree with the letter. There are points in there that are quite valid. Just talking to some other people about some other issues or things that were happening in the community, I raised that personally, and it was raised with me on a couple of other occasions as well, apart from this letter, that yes, we take on board, we are doing the right thing, we are communicating with the community as a whole, and nobody wants to see that lost. A lot of people, one lady in particular I was speaking to last night, and she said she's busy working on all that. She doesn't have time to go to the computer, but there's been occasions where she's flicked through the local paper, found a DA that was of interest, and has actually contacted the council and said, "Oh wow, I'm so close to missing the time, or I've just missed it. Is it okay?" And she's been given permission to do that. So I think that's where we're sort of standing up and showing the community that we are. But to have one person questioning the possibility that we're not going to continue using the local newspaper, and it's great that we have got papers, so let's embrace that, as per the letter where even Chris Galapis is saying that we should be using newspapers and stuff. I think it just gives that security or that surety to our community that we are listening, we are communicating, we are being upfront, you know, open and transparent. So if there is DAs out there, we will have them in a written form that people can access. We live in a low socio-economic area. There's so many people that don't have access to computers. A lot of people still don't do Facebook, and a lot of people will miss things because they'll see council stuff but they don't see it as important. But every now and then you flick through the paper, you'll see a DA and think, and that's what the people that I spoke to about this want to see continue happening. So I think as much as we're doing it, let's ensure, as Councillor Simpson's mentioned, that we continue doing that. You know, 5 years down the track or whatever, that we're still keeping that open, transparent line to the community. So I support everything that Daniel said, and do it, please.
Councillor Lyons, as you said, the submission said we're not going to continue doing it. It doesn't say that.
Well, they're asking.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that. It says we're going to still continue, but it won't be mandatory. That's all it is. Yeah.
Can I just make a comment? I'm a little bit, you know, worried about what some people determine as a minor and, you know, and contentious issue in a DA, because to some people they're minor, to some people they're not. So it depends who's assessing them and what their outlook is and what their views are, is what we're going to get. And, you know, if we trust the staff, and that's fine, and we do, but I think that's going to cause an issue somewhere down the line if it's not set in that policy. But whether we can change it or not, make it any easier, I don't know.
Mr. General Manager, looks like you have...
Oh, look, I've got something that just to add to the conversation. The discussion. So this is actually in the community participation plan section. Can engagement requirements be varied? And then the section says manager discretion to waive or reduce engagement requirements. And it reads, Council's manager development environment has discretion to waive or reduce engagement requirements of this chapter, subject to consideration of the proposal's scale and potential impacts balanced against the likely community interest in the application, and, point 2, compliance with minimum statutory requirements set by the Act and regulation. Adding to that, it says a decision to waive or reduce engagement of an application under this chapter must be documented and include a statement of who made the decision, how engagement requirements were changed, and justify the reasons for the decision. So that gets documented as part of our processes, so that if there are any questions, there's a justification as to why that decision was made.
So that kind of justification comes out of the DAP meetings, doesn't it? You have a set of minutes, and that's always there as public record if you want to check as how they come at that decision.
And I would imagine if there was a lot of inquiry from the community why that hasn't been, those reasons were given, and they weren't happy with that, then that would be, he would be more loose in his judgment and advertise.
I think it's important to clarify that our local members' commentary was just generally about advertising in newspapers. It wasn't specific to development-related matters. I think that's an important point to note. So yeah, it's a decision on whether you want to strengthen that. But as it says, we're meeting the minimum statutory requirements. We make judgments to make sure that our community are aware of DAs that are likely to be contentious, and also we obviously go through the other process of notifying neighbours and those other, you know, people that are potentially affected by a proposed DA.
Any other speakers? Councillor Simpson, it's Councillor Hayes, did you want to speak?
I want to bring up another issue in that same document. Can I do that
Yep,
now?
fine. Yep,
Okay.
please.
On page 32, deficient development applications. I'm fine with how it reads. I'm just wondering how council are going to manage when someone comes into the counter and they lodge a development application and it's deficient. Okay, what expertise is available at the counter to deal with that? And if it's not there, how long a period can it take for them to take the development application to wherever they've got to go within the council and get back to you? Because that part of the development application process used to be recorded as time, now it's not going to be. I'm just wondering if there's a set of rules or time frame around the staff being available and getting that information back.
Sorry, what page number,
page is it?
councillor Hayes?
63, but it's page 32 of the document. 3.8.
53.
Ah,
It's got attachments numbering and a document numbering on there. Okay.
Is it that one? I don't know.
I'll just ask a question while that's being looked at. What is the implication of this policy being deferred for a month? In which case, I'll move.
No,
Can I move an amendment?
Yeah, you could, well, just withdraw your motion and move them.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion and move that this be deferred for a month for us to consider those things. I know that can be frustrating for staff given it's been on.
There's no, I checked that with Angela, no issues with deferring it.
I'll
I think-
second that.
Yep, happy to do that.
So I have a mover withdrawing. Councillor Hayes, you were the second. Are you right with that? No, okay. Councillor Simpson, you move.
I now move that we defer the item till
Okay.
next month.
All right. Councillor Hayes?
Yep, happy with that. Thank you.
Okay. So if you're withdrawing it till next month, will you be giving council some feedback, or so they can, the staff some feedback so they can address these issues?
Yes, I'll
Thank you.
be doing that.
Any other speakers? Put that motion then for the deferral. Carried unanimously. Items 18. Page 64, matters for information. Is any, could I get a mover, please? I'm sorry, 17.7, I've jumped one. My apologies. I'd crossed the other one off too early. Councillor Simpson, 17.7.
Move the recommendation as written.
Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second.
Councillor Simpson. Oh, no, sorry. Councillor Cornish had his light on. No, Councillor Cornish had his light on before anyone. Councillor Simpson.
No, really move this because it's a planning proposal, and I'm personally keen to see it move forward, but let's see what happens.
Any other speakers?
Yes, please.
Councillor Lyons?
I do have some concerns with this proposal, and if possible, get some answers on one of the things that came up was the finding of significant flora that needs to be protected, and I'm just wondering with taking, I'm happy with 33 of the lots, but I'm questioning lot 1, lot 2 and lot 36 because of the impact it will have on the koala population, the wetland area and the drainage as that goes across. If 36 outside the E2 zone is a primary use, what will be put in place to ensure that sort of runoff from there doesn't flow into the E2 zone and damage or cause any destruction to any of that protected or significant fauna? If this proposal does go ahead, what is there to put in place to actually stop the owner of lot 36 from future subdivision of this land? Is there something like a covenant that can be put on that land to stop that in the future, whether that's 5 years down the track or 10 years, particularly if the Riley Hills sewage treatment plant is upgraded in any way that could open the door for that owner to want to subdivide that land. There's issues with koalas. I do know that there are 3 males at present in the vicinity of this site. So is there going to be some kind of requirement for people to not purchase these blocks with dogs, as dogs are one of the top issues with koalas, and as we're losing our koalas more and more, we need to be mindful of if this is has koala corridor running through it or near it, we should be looking into whether or not we want dogs on these blocks. There would be a call out to have the speed zones reduced, extra signage right along that whole road, because if you're going to have an extra 33 lots, preferably then to 36, you're going to have a lot more traffic coming through. So is there some way that we should be looking at koala signage, some fencing on the corners so that people are aware that the koalas are there and that the koalas have got an area that stops them from crossing because they're harder to see. And signage saying that this is a koala area. We all know that koalas, once they're stressed, they're more likely to be get disease. And so at this stage, there's 3 males that are in that area, and there's also one up at the hall. Not sure if that's a male or a female, but I think if this is going to go ahead, I'd like to see some other safeguards put in place to ensure that that is. And do we know what the significant flora is that's been found on that site at all?
Mr. General Manager. Director Jones.
Through you, Mr Mayor. A few questions in there, councillor Lyons. I'll attempt to answer them, but you may have to refresh my memory. So, firstly, as you're all aware, this planning proposal has been on council's books for a number of years. Due to